Ansary here, coming to you on this day of April 13th, 2019. It's been a while since I've done a reading from Dion Fortune's Psychic Self-Defense. We're going to be focusing on one of the latter chapters. Click the link down below if you want to become a member of my additional channel where there's no censorship. It's outsidethebox.vhx.tv. There's a video where I give another case study on my interaction with the supernatural as a person online speaking truth, trying to help people unplug. I have my own encounters. I have my own God shots, if you will. And I think there are some things that do happen to us that may happen to us to make us stronger. I've seen this in others, kind of like the whole saying, no pain, no gain. And so what I'm going to be doing in this video, we're going on battery power, right? So we're going to go as long as possible. It's just 6 o'clock in the morning. Wanting to tackle something I've been thinking about for days, giving you a modern spin on what she's writing about here, for example. So, psychic attack and the links to something called rapport and magnetic links. So, in her day and age, something like the internet, as we know it now, something that I describe as something that can energetically connect people telepathically. So this didn't exist at the time of her writing this 100 years ago. So hopefully, as I read certain passages, I'm going to try to keep this under 20 minutes. Hopefully things will come to mind. And if you want more content, click the link down below and become a member. I want to continue to focus on things like paranormal case studies, personal life stories, and things of that nature, that specific nature for VHX. As things heat up geopolitically, I'll be talking more about China. But I'm also working right now to preserve my own energy, not burn out, focus on what's more important. I'm also interested in hearing certain requests from some of you, even within regards of spiritual warfare or even spirituality. I think there's a lot of interest in the soul's journey, reincarnation, what happens after we die. There was another version of this video that I recorded a few days ago that I didn't publish. I should also start wearing more clean shirts for some of these recordings, not completely stained by multiple boxes of pancakes. My number one, oh, let's not forget Aunt Jeremiah. But, I do live off the grid, a little bit different than a lot of people. That does directly connect with what we're talking about, though. And I miss certain luxuries of the grid, like being near certain restaurants, laundromats, swimming pools, showers, dating once in a while. We've talked about these things. But living like a pauper in the woods, sometimes being unshaven for multiple days, right? Oh, heaven forbid, more than a week. Whoo, boy, hide that boy. There's a reason why I'm doing this. So my encounters, ladies and gentlemen, with the paranormal come after years of putting myself out there on the internet and on cable access TV. So I feel like I've learned a lot about psychic attack by putting myself out there. That's a great way to summarize a lot of it. I've talked about the sun. I've talked about coming wars with China, threats to even the American people. And I have war games spiritually where some of the warlock energy may be coming at that's been thrown at me over the years. Is it human? Is it non-human? Is it more something that's non-human that's used various humans to come against me? How is this going to fare out in the future? And where do the angels came in? Or as the Gnostics may call them, the aeons. And so I try to leave room for that. I have a cat. I also think I have a spiritual connection to tigers. I wonder where that comes from. Some people think that what we think as past lives is actually genetic memory. Um, with regards to past lives or future lives of animals, I wanted to note that how do we know that one is evolving upward and one is evolving downward? And there could be forms of expression of intelligent life that are beyond human, but still of the earth plane, but maybe of a role. And I've talked about this multiple times that is there, kind of like an angel or an archangel to defend humans against that which is oppressing the species. I've put out that intention even on YouTube, that if I'm here to remain in this realm, this type of a realm, at least give me something more to work with to help the human species. But we have everything that we need to work with at the moment. So, in a roundabout way, this is connected, right? Because speaking in terms of meditation, speaking in terms of training, and let's say you're a dancer, let's say you're someone that's into performance, uh, athletics, something rather, where you need to be on your game, so to speak. Does it benefit you or does it work against you to be distracted? Okay. So psychic attack is just one word or phrase to describe a distraction or distraction energy. And distraction energy exists all around us. It exists in the media. And so these distraction energies can produce images which, if we remain unconscious, can turn into a psychic attack. Certain images that we perceive certain ways, that we take into our mind a certain way, that we respond to a certain way unconsciously. That doesn't mean that we should turn away from the reality of this world as it is. So a lot of like news today functions more or less as something that, instead of waking someone up, leads someone towards a certain worldview that's a part of something else. So a lot of people want to stay away from the news because inherently they want to stay away from programming. I don't necessarily agree that it's good to stay away from all informational news sources, but even these days, I find myself stepping back for multiple days from the news wire in order to not be in a reactionary state. It doesn't remain that way. I always eventually come back to um, news sources, things of that nature, and making videos about it. But what I do to create balance in my own life, as a person that speaks about world events, to maintain a sense of balance and mental health, is for multiple days, I will need to step back from the news wire and commenting on world affairs just to have some sense of rest in a unrestful world, to maintain a sense of balance in a world where I see documented examples of my peers in the alternative media, for one reason or another, not maintaining balance. And other people, uh, for whatever reason, not even getting involved in speaking the truth in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. Like not even being even in the game or arena or active speaking. They have their own reasons. And I could see the benefit. I could see the reasons why some people would choose to stay off the internet to protect their own energy spiritually, but also to protect themselves physically. Even if some of us have chosen to be risk takers, that's not to belittle those that have been smart enough and intuitive enough to not put their real name out there on the internet because of concerns that they've had. I have no idea how much time the battery power will remain, but I want to segue here after all that to page 92. Psychic trouble not infrequently arises owing to the formation of a undesirable rapport. In order to understand the nature of this problem, we must consider the whole subject of rapport. So, in line with what I'm saying, we are here in the modern day and age, 100 years after this book was written. A lot of the rapport that we're dealing with is online, it is digital, it is running through servers that most people know nothing about, let alone how they energetically, consciously could be affected when their data is on these servers in mysterious locations. And I would even add in the idea of our data in our cells being viewed by non-human forces and entities through webcams and through elements of the internet. And how that can literally have an impact on our energy field when we're under surveillance, but that type of surveillance. So as we go through this basic common breaking down the physics of how this works, consider the modern day and age. We have already considered in some detail the question of telepathic suggestion, which we can go back to. Something she wrote in the book. Rapport may be considered as the passive act of that which telepathic suggestion is the active aspect. It forms, in fact, the basic condition necessary for telepathic suggestion to take place. Two people who are in rapport might be described as astral Siamese twins. Although the physical bodies are independent units, the astral bodies are linked in such a manner that there is free circulation of astral force between them, just as the circulatory system of the mother is connected through the umbilical cord with the unborn child, and the same blood circulated freely through both. Also, relationships, people that are intimately connected, people that also share pot pipes, that creates a connection. Be careful who you share pipes with. This fact explains many important occult phenomena. It is the real key to marriage and explains many facts in the relationship of parent and child. It also accounts for some important aspects of the relation of pupil and teacher. But not only is it possible for a rapport to be established between two individuals, but between an individual and a group. This fact plays an important part in all fraternity work. It is also possible to establish rapport between a human being and other kingdoms of nature with disincarnate entities, supernatural beings, and which I've defined as archons, but not solely defined as or limited to. Earthbound spirits may be described as something else, but there may be, quite a bit of archonic interference in the earthbound realm. Lower realm, they're often seen as being almost outside of our atmosphere, but I often think of clear coordination between archonic entities and things that may be earthbound to toy with targeted human beings on a targeted individual program that's different than it's defined on YouTube, where they're talking about the government. Okay. The Alex Ansary analysis of the real TI program is so far different than what is described elsewhere. And I'm going to maintain my course with the things that I am discussing, but there is human interference, government interference as well in our lives, in our emails. I've had things like disappearing emails and all types of phenomena and harassment that I've never brought to YouTube. And I have just taken it on now, accepted it as a part of the fallen world, and to not be shocked by certain types of behaviors. And so certain things that happen to us actually happen to us to help us grow, to become more powerful. Whereas before we weren't as experienced dealing with certain characters, consciousnesses, and personalities. And as these portals open up, and as we go through this shift, all types of energies and levels of consciousnesses are pulling through. Some of the light, some of the dark side, that at times, sometimes in proximity to new moon, full moon, and geometric storms, they take some humans. Sometimes they're in the audience. Sometimes they're on the internet. Sometimes they're on social media. But oftentimes, social media and internet disinformation is strategically used to take people in a certain direction. And the coordination of all the network of disinformation that speaks to a particular narrative often stems from a disincarnate entity or being. That I would say in today's modern day and age, the internet is their playground. There's some great stuff on the internet, but the internet in today's day and age is the devil's playground. It's like someone can bring to art beautiful things and beautiful people, or there can be violent video games and a desecration of what the creator has created. And that is so much of what the internet is projecting with elements of entertainment. And then things that usually are limited to the world of adults being marketed seemingly accidentally, but really not so accidentally, but being marketed to children. Why? Because they're socially engineering them for some sort of apocalypse reality, unfortunately. And that's where the films come in, and the video games, and what's on Netflix, and how like the internet is building this type of like rapport, energetic magnetic link between the mindset that the disincarnate entities want to give the human species. They use the internet, right? It's not all bad, but the internet is a tool for the disincarnate entities globally infecting the human species down on the ground, right? And maybe we're being affected by something that's affected us from inside the earth. I'm not discounting hollow earth. I think that's way more interesting than being diverted into flat earth. Okay. That may be where the real mystery is. What's going on underneath our feet? And some people have already been on that line of inquisitive thought. We can even look at H.G. Wells and the Time Machine. So, less of what's affecting us in some cases, back to the historic words of Dion Fortune. When two human beings are in rapport, the less positive of the two tends to lose his own individuality and becomes the pale reflection of the other. It is for this reason that the Western occultists and the use of this word, like the way that Mark Passio uses it, is related to spiritual knowledge or hidden spiritual knowledge, not a connotation of something evil. And so one can even say spiritualist or one on the spiritual path. But the one that values individuality highly does not take personal pupils in the same way as done the Eastern guru, but prefers to work through a ritual within a group because this method is more impersonal. Even so, the individual members of a group who undergo certain changes whereby they are tuned into the group tone so that there will be a common denominator which they all possess. Who cannot recognize the sign manual, the Christian Scientist, the Quaker? I also say church. Church comes to mind where people stand up and start singing songs. That would be a form of ritual. So it would be with the US flag, that would be a form of ritual. And people getting upset when people desecrate their ritual. So there's all different types of ritual with occultic symbols, even on flags, even in courthouses that are in our world. In this fact, of course, lies the value of association with a worthy group. So I'm going to sum this up and go to the next point. It's the idea of we're going to be affected by the groups that we're around. You're going to be affected by the people you're around. You're going to be affected by the videos that you watch. There's a rapport going on. There's a rapport going on back and forth. Some audience